heard from the biologist who's backs up what I'm saying.
That'll be up to the board to decide that.
Okay.
Thank you, thank you. Is there anybody else from the city that would like to speak?
No, Mr. Chair.
From anybody on the respondent side? Anybody from the public office? Yes. Yes, please go up there and state your name. And for any exhibit, please make sure you give one, Mr. Herring, right there.
My name's Dave Rasmussen. I live at 7544 Gulfstream Boulevard, backs up to his property. Like him, I've been here a long time. I've been in that neighborhood for 35 years. My grandfather owned the lot next door, and I bought the lot from him and developed my property. I started back in '94, and it took me 3 years of biological studies and surveys and paperwork to find out that I needed a grant of conservation just to get a permit. That the hammock was so perfect and protected, so many protected trees, that I had to donate 60% as a grant of conservation. And then I found out that not only that, but all the trees where the house and the driveway sits, that 40%, I had to replace those trees too. And then eventually also move the house 10 feet to the west to protect another set of thatch palms. Around the end of 2004, Mark approached me from my property in the back, said, "Hey, I just bought the property behind you." And I said, "Yeah, welcome to the neighbor." He said, "Yeah, I got a permit to clear all these trees." And I hadn't even gotten my CO yet because it took me 10 years to build my house there too, out of my pocket. I called my biologist at the time. I was like, how come I had to do a grant of conservation and the city is allowing this guy to clear all the trees? Well, the biologist from the county called the city, and the city said, "I don't know anything about any permit." And they went out there in 2004 and cited him for cutting the hammock down back then, and was supposed to replace the trees that he did there. For the last 8 years, he didn't build. He put he had augered holes and put the steel in the ground for the columns, and then I guess left the job site for about 8 years, up until about 8 months ago or so. Just started clearing it. And, you know, this isn't the first time. He's systematically been removing this hammock over the course of 8 years to the point where there's almost nothing left. The hollies that they speak of that are on the north side of his property are coming from a house that was built 35, 40 years ago, and they cleared the whole lot, and that's the reason those hollies are there. They're trying to protect that hammock that's back there and fix the problems that they didn't know they were creating, you know, all those years ago. But, you know, there's pictures. It's laughable that it wasn't a hammock. The stumps were all there, only they allowed him to bring in fill and cover up all. He not only cleared 160 foot of his, he didn't stop and he knocked trees over in my yard, including a 20-foot thatch palm, which has got to be close to 40 years old, and damaged the property next door to me. The bulldozer didn't stop at his property line. The one that the city manager was saying where the hammock stopped and the exotic started. You know, like I said, I went through more than anybody's gone through to get a house back there, and I have a hard time stomaching how you can clear a lot from street to property line. And this is exactly what's happened. And this is 2004. This isn't the first time. And as
But
of
I'm cautioning you to just consider the violation that's in front of you. You know, you're hearing testimony about a lot of other alleged violations, and you shouldn't really be taking those into account. He doesn't have an
For the same
opportunity to
thing?
defend those allegations.
Does the board have any questions? Does the city have any questions?
No.
Do you have any questions? Sure. Don't run too far away.
Mr. Rasmussen can use this.
The first question, excuse me, it's probably the most obvious one. Where's the proof? Okay, there is no proof. What he's saying is complete fiction. I have aerial photos here of my lot for the last, I don't know, going back to, was this 2005, 2004. Now, they're not great photos, but you can see the lot was empty. Now, where his house was is very dense. okay? And I don't dispute that, and I'm sorry he had to donate some of his land and he had to do Conservation Act. That was all within the county. Exactly, it's within the county. Now, the city is a whole nother animal, and it's clear from these pictures. I'll show them, you guys wanna see them?
Question, you're not retestifying. If you have any questions,
Well,
have no questions, that's fantastic.
okay, well, again, the question was, where's the proof?
Right here.
That is not proof.
Is this Mark send Mark November 3rd to the mitigation plan for native trees that were illegally removed?
And what was the date? I'm sorry, the date?
November 3rd, 2004, the first time
Okay,
he did this.
2004. Does this have to do with today's? Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure.
Does the city have anything else?
I-
No, no,
You're gonna have
You said,
pardon?
evidence, John.
Yeah,
you asked about evidence?
yes.
I did, I do have evidence. The day after it happened, I paid for a biologist to come out there to verify and document everything that was out there, and he's here tonight, and he can tell you what he saw, before they've gone out there and dumped fill over the top of all the stumps. Somebody was asking if they removed the stumps. The stumps are still there, they're under a foot of fill right now. And I do have somebody that can verify that there was hardwood hammocks, and when Mr. Garrett stopped him on Saturday, there was a dumpster full of trees that were in there that could have been identified at the time, every single one of them as a native hardwood. And the thatch palms were all put back up with rope because they were all ripped up. Thatch palms that are growing don't need to be held up.
Gotta be accurate. Please state your name,
Gary DeLashman
in the mic.
in the Alrighty. I'm Harry DeLashman. I'm a private biologist working for Biosurveys Incorporated. I've been a biologist for the, what's that?
Address.
Address, 794 26th Street, Marathon. Okay, and I haven't been sworn in, so,
Oh, you have not?
no.
You swear to tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
When Mr. Rasmussen developed his property, I was the county biologist at the time. And I was on the site there and did the vegetation survey and the habitat analysis for his property and several other properties, and that's all, you know, probably irrelevant here. But when I was there at the time, I was on the boundary of his property, and I did notice this hardwood hammock extended off into that property. I can attest to that. And it was very lightly invaded by invasive exotics at that time. Okay, that was in 1997, June of 1997. So that's going back a ways. So unfortunately, what we have here is the fact that there was never a vegetation survey or a habitat analysis done on this property at 1515 Bluefin, Mr. Stenmartin's house, at the time that the construction permits were issued. So there's really no way to go back and see what was there. I do believe that the city biologist came out at the time of the permit and identified the native trees, several of them, and she issued a condition on the permit that clearly stated that native trees were not to be damaged or destroyed during the development of the property. I was called out and retained by Mr. Rasmussen in February of this year, and I came out to the property and observed damage done to the ground or the substrate of the 1515 Bluefin property. It appeared that it had been bulldozed or backhoed. There was evidence of resprouting Spanish stopper, which is a native. Pigeon plum was resprouting. There was gumbo limbo pieces and roots in and among the rock and the rubble. There was a pushed over palm tree right on the property line that was pushed into Mr. Rasmussen's property, along with several large chunks of the native limestone rock that prevails in that area. I'm working currently on the property just west of Mr. Rasmussen's and bordering 1515 Bluefin, retained by a property owner there to do a vegetation survey. And I'm doing an assessment right now. And I was out there 2 weeks ago, and I noticed that fill had been placed over the entire area that I had observed earlier. There are 2 dead batch palms that are small, and the others, there is one that's propped up with 2 befores, I believe, and the property that I'm working on, which is interesting, has native hardwood hammock habitat. It is disturbed. It does have Brazilian pepper in it, a number of different invasive exotics. But along that common boundary, there is quality hardwood hammock and understory. Okay?
Does the board have any questions, Mr. Glassman? Does the city have any questions?
No.
Do you have any, Mark? Do you have any questions? Absolutely. And again, no more testimony, questions.
Yes, sir. You said that you were there in February?
Yes.
And you observed all this?
Yes.
Okay, this didn't happen till the end of March.
Harry, please talk into the meeting.
This didn't happen till the end of March.
That's interesting.
Okay. And also that property, that other property that's directly behind me, I've seen your report on it, as a matter of fact. Isn't it, didn't you say it's 60% invasives?
I don't believe it's 60, no.
It was not 60.
I don't believe it.
What do you think it was?
Well, it was a good 40.
It was a good 40.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So there's lots of invasives back there.
Yes, quite a few up front. Yes.
Okay. Okay. All right. No further questions.
Thank you. Okay, at this point, I'm going to close the discussion, open it up to the board. Mr. Pearson down here, I'll start with you. Do you have any comments, questions?
I gotta tell you, that's a tough one.
Okay,
I don't know. Let the rest of the guys go.
next door.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I've got some issues with all this, certainly. Number one, I was wondering why it was withdrawn and reissued, but, you know, I appreciate George's testimony, and certainly Roger's. Known George for 25 years, I have nothing but respect for his opinion. Roger did a great job as well. But we just heard a lot of, you know, we've been here for a couple of hours hearing testimony about not clearing lots. I have heard nothing tonight from anyone to convince me that any native vegetation whatsoever was removed under this permit. We have fined people and held people to task for not clearing their lots. This Asiatica vine that I see here is awful. It's swallowing the property. It appears to be killing trees. I mean, we may as well fine him for not clearing this. It's like a lose-lose situation is what I'm seeing. Mr. Glassman said there's no way to go back and see what was there. We have now a quandary over whether this happened in February and March, but again, nothing tangible that the person that received the citation here did anything wrong. What I'm seeing is he did a lot of right things. He killed off what appears to be a terrible exotic here. It looks like he preserved palms that I'm seeing here. It looks like he preserved palms that I'm seeing here. He's been working on the property for a long time. He did have a permit. I mean, I don't know how many more hoops that he could have jumped through, other than to get perhaps the permit to begin with. But even that is kind of a no harm, no foul thing to me, because he's not a scofflaw. He went in under, you know, having been recommended to get a permit, and he got the permit. What he did is he destroyed a bunch of exotics.
difficult because you're right, you can't say that they're native or they're exotic, but something did transpire there that was enough to upset a neighbor.
Now, this is closed for board discussion now.
So I guess that's what disturbs me. The property was definitely disturbed. I believe that trees were taken down. What they were, I don't know. So it's really hard to say that they were native to take it down. And I believe that a permit was required to do what he did, so a permit should have been taken. And if there is a fine for the fact of not having a permit, then I think that stands. As far as holding somebody liable for cutting down, native trees, I don't see how we can do that. Though I believe something happened, I don't see how we can pinpoint what it did. That's my opinion. John? Do we have a motion?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
It would be my suggestion on behalf of the city, when you ask for recommendation, that maybe it would be appropriate for you all to split this one and take up the first issue if there was work done without a permit, and if there's a fine accessible for that, then do that, and then take up the issue if there's needed mitigation because there is or isn't evidence that native species were removed. Suggestion.
So you're suggesting they split it and first have a motion in violation or not in violation?
That's correct. And then the staff recommendation would be to assess the $500 fine that's set forth in the citation, and then they can take up the issue of the mitigation if they believe there's competent substantial evidence to
So
support that.
why don't you first decide or entertain a motion from someone that feels not in violation or in violation, then you can move on. What's that?
Can we do what John Herron just said?
Yes, you can first hear whether or not you find there's a violation.
All right. Steve, make a motion. I make a motion that I find in violation of clearing without a permit.
Let me ask one question here.
Whoa,
Let me ask, no, let me get one point straight.
Motion on the table.
I know. Let me ask a question. Did he pay for the permit too?
I
Or was this,
honestly don't know.
was this a
I
free
don't-
permit?
It's a no-fee permit, zero.
It was a freebie.
And that thus our
Okay, so we haven't
our
charged
position
him twice.
is
All right.
that the
We haven't
$500
charged him twice.
fine
That's what I wanted
is
to know.
appropriate for the no permit
All right.
to begin with.
All right, John, go ahead.
Call the roll.
Vito Giglio?
Yes.
Stephen Britsky?
Yes.
Eugene Kyle?
No.
John Keller? Sherwood Judson? Steve Pearson?
Yes.
John Repetto? Motion passes.
Now, you would have a separate motion on the penalty that the board would see fit to apply for this violation.
No, but I have a question. Okay, so basically how you came about this figure, George, is you took the square footage and you calculated how many of this
Wait, I'll tell you, I'd recommend you not reopen this for more testimony. No, but the problem inherent in that is to provide due process. He's going to have a right to cross-examine and provide his own evidence. This is really closed to the board at this point, unless you want to reopen it.
Can I ask the city a question? The recommendation for what should be replaced was based on statistical analysis, what existed next door.
How
A
did these?
comparative analysis, yeah, a compare,
Forget statistics,
because
wrong word.
as the evidence,
Strictly speaking, on the adjacent properties, this sort of thing existed.
as the evidence was provided, it's by I believe the adjacent property owners' own witnesses, we'll never know because a survey was never provided. So we're doing a
Clearing on the adjacent property.
comparative analysis.
Get back in order.
I move that, notwithstanding that the respondent's been found in violation, that the citation carry no fine whatsoever as to this property or this man.
So you're talking about the second part, having no remediation for planting of the trees.
There would be no fine, but there would need to be a $300 administrative fee. That's required under the city
That's
code.
my motion, and thank you,
All right.
Tom. Yes.
We have a second. No second.
Let's let's hash that over for a minute,
Back to discussion.
because I'm not sure that I was clear on that. You're suggesting that we drop the $500? Okay, that's, so we're still stuck with the 350. Trees. Taking the man at his word, he said he didn't clear any, and I tend to agree with that, but we've got a, the sniff test here. How about 10 trees in 10-gallon cans? No fine, 350 and 10 trees.
Make a motion.
That's his motion. Is that your motion?
That's my motion.
All right, see if there's a second for that.
What was the motion?
350 for the meeting, and 10 trees
300.
and 5-gallon cans.
300 administrative fee, and that the respondent, within what, 30 days,
30 days,
plants 10 trees in
10-gallon cans, 5-gallon cans, 10-gallon, let's call them
10-gallon
10-gallon
cans.
Let's get 10 decent trees here. 10 trees and 10-gallon cans.
That's your motion.
Yeah.
All right, is there,
This
So
is
just
just on
this
the
is the
second
first part
part.
or the second part?
this is on the penalty phase.
Penalty phase.
Then I'll make a second.
All right.
Do we want to call the roll? Steve made the motion. Steve seconded.
The motion is to waive the $500 fine on the citation, impose a $300 administrative fee, and require the planting of 10 10-gallon trees.
There we go.
Within, now, do you want to give it, you said 30 days, and if he fails to do so, $100 a day retroactive?
Yes.
All right.
We have a motion, we have a second. Does everyone understand the motion?
Not really, but.
No, I don't understand the motion. Okay.
Why are we waiting?
Want me,
for
let,
500? I thought
Why,
that
why
was
are we
separate.
waiting
right,
to find
no.
out? Was something done?
all right.
One at a
One
time.
person at a time, please.
Didn't we handle this as two separate cases?
No. What we've done is we separated the finding of violation. Now we're talking about the appropriate penalty that you want to impose. The motion is no fine, $300 administrative fee, and within 30 days, the respondent must plant 10-gallon trees within 30 days, and if he fails to do so, $100 a day fine, retroactive to the date of the order.
Explain what we did on the first one.
He just did, I
We
understand.
found him guilty. We found
You found him guilty.
You've already found him in violation.
So then I retract my second.
All right?
Right?
Then you need another motion.
Do we have
Another motion?
Another motion.
motion to adjourn is not accepted. And the city, can I ask what the city's recommendation on the second part of this case is?
The city believes that, based on the evidence and testimony presented, at a bare minimum, the $500 fine should be imposed, because he did not obtain a permit, and that's what's specified in the citation. I leave it up to you all to decide what type of mitigation, based upon what you've heard. That's up to you all, and I don't want to venture a guess. I've heard the 10 times 10.
Is the reason, let me help you a little bit, is the reason that motion didn't get a second because the other board members feel that is too lenient? All right, then someone needs to make a motion for a harsher,
$250 and 10 10-gallon trees.
250, so your motion is the same motion except $250 fine, correct?
He has asked for $500 and 30 trees, yes?
That's correct.
That's correct.
Size of those trees was what, please?
It was 10 25-gallon, 10 10-gallon, and 10 shrubs.
Okay, listen, an after-the-fact permit is $500. Any contractor here knows after-the-fact permit's $500. So why are you even thinking of letting him slide on $500 fine?
No, but it was a non-invasive, plant permit, which is free. The permit was free.
Doesn't matter if it's free.
Does somebody want to move the city's recommendation just for to move it along?
Well,
If he would have gotten a permit and there was an investigation, there would be no
Hold on.
conversation.
If I may, unless you disagree with me, I did hear a motion, I just don't know if it got a second.
Yeah, it did
La-
not.
The last one.
No,
the-
it did not.
Get a second.
Okay.
It did not, and then that's why I asked it what the problem was. Not harsh enough, they said.
More discussion within the board here, all right. We had a couple options. We can option A, put a fine, we can do a fine and trees, or we can do just trees.
Well, where are we hung up down there? Are we hung up on money or are we hung up on trees down there? Guys, the fine.
The fine for not getting a permit that was free.
But if you had gotten the permit, we wouldn't be, we'd be home right now.
So you like the motion, except you think the fine should be
All right, how about the
$500?
trees?
Do you
Are we
agree
good
with
with the
10
trees?
trees?
I make a motion, I make a motion that we find them in violation, which we did, the $500 fine and no remediation, no trees.
$300 administrative fee as well, correct?
Therefore, do we have a second? Second.
We just asked that the fine be paid within 30 days.
30 days and all that kind of stuff. So we have a motion of $500 and no remediation.
$500, $300 administrative fee to be paid within 30 days,
Right.
and no remediation is part of the motion.
Call the roll.
Stephen Britsky,
Yes.
John Repetto,
Yes.
Vito Giglio,
Yes.
Eugene Kyle,
No.
John Keller,
No.
Sherwood Judson.
No.
Okay, motion fails. Steve Pearson?
No.
Fails.
Okay, motion fails.
Back to square one.
I'm scribbling out all my notes.
John, legal opinion, can we just, the person that's been cited do something by stipulated agreement in order to simplify this? Would that be a better choice for all this perhaps?
As the manager has indicated, we offered that to begin with. That was one of the options on the table, and as I understand it, it was rejected by the property owner. That's why we're here.
But there's no reason not that we can't take that approach again, right? I mean, in theory, at least.
If he's willing to do that, but I don't know. I think that it's gonna be,
Well-
I don't wanna speak for staff and for
Mr.
administration, it's
Mr.
gonna be essentially the same that's already on the table.
Mr. Kyle, it would be within your discretion as a board to call a brief recess and see if the city and the violator can work something out. I mean, you can certainly do that, but as Mr. Heron said, they have tried and been unsuccessful in the past.
I